Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. Glad to have you here. This is our presentation on setting up a simple customer relation management system in SharePoint. My name is Will Cooper, and we will now begin. This is being recorded. We'll post it on YouTube later today, so don't feel like you got to scramble to take notes. If you have questions, we'd like to hear them. I will do my best to answer. The way you can get questions to us during the presentation is to use the Q&A tool in the webinar. You can post your questions there. If you don't get an immediate response, don't worry. I'm going to circle back to them later. So please keep those questions and comments coming. And we'll just do some high level before we jump into the main presentation. As I mentioned, my name is Will Cooper. I am a SharePoint solutions developer, and I do a lot of things related to SharePoint. I have my own YouTube channel called SharePoint Smart. Hopefully you guys can check that out later. I post all kinds of learning and informational videos about SharePoint on my YouTube channel. I also have my own SharePoint product called SharePoint Dashboards. That is a separate tool from Infowise Ultimate Forms, which will be our focus today. If you'd like to learn a little bit about that, at the very end of our presentation, I'll give a little bit of info about that tool. About Infowise, we're under the impression we want things to be simple and easy for people to do. We're trying to accommodate for users who don't want to do coding, and we're all about improving our tools on a continuous basis. And that's our philosophy. We're continuously improving and making our tools easy to use. Ultimate Forms is a full solution toolkit that will work 100% inside of your SharePoint interface, and there is no coding required to do anything related to Infowise Ultimate Forms. Our product works both with SharePoint Online and on-premise SharePoint, so no matter what your SharePoint environment is, our tools will work for what you need in your environment. So this is how I tend to think about out-of-the-box SharePoint. It's limited. It doesn't provide you the capabilities you need to do everything you need to do, and it's also a bit boring, hence my picture here. Ultimate Forms brings those capabilities that you want and need to SharePoint, and it allows you to build solutions with custom forms and actions and email notifications and things of this nature so that you can have complete solutions inside of SharePoint. All right, so now we're going to jump into SharePoint. Here I am in SharePoint Online, and I will tell you the solution that I'm presenting to you today is available for you to try for free later today after our presentation. In order to access this, you can simply download our software from the Infowise website, and I will show you later in the presentation how you can access the specific solution. So everything you see me doing, you can download into your own SharePoint environment and try it out for yourself. So the topic of our presentation today is having a CRM system inside of SharePoint. Well, you may be saying to yourself, but there's already CRM solutions. There's enterprise level software that does this. In fact, Microsoft even provides their own CRM software. And of course, there's Salesforce as well. So what is the challenge with those systems? These are very large, sophisticated pieces of software. They're expensive. It's a major investment for business to do this. And perhaps even more of a challenge is the training and complexity involved. There is a lot to do to use this kind of a system, and it's really not going to match up well when your needs are more streamlined and more straightforward. And that's really where the system I'm going to show today comes in. This CRM solution is a custom solution built using SharePoint lists that simply focused on tracking your customer information and sales activity. So I'm going to take you through from a user perspective first, and then after that I'm going to take you through a little bit of the setup. Once again, I do want to remind you as I go through the presentation, Please feel free to post your questions and comments in the Q&A section so that I can address those and respond to you. This tool is set up in a regular SharePoint site and relies only on 2 SharePoint lists. I have one for customers and one for sales activity. When I go into this list, I can track different prospective customers that I'm talking to. I can see where they are in the sales process. I can see who the salesperson is, and I can see what activities are going on. And it's all from one centralized dashboard that can be shared by your sales team. You can see these are grouped by different stages. I've got initial contact, new lead, proposal sent, and so on. Those stages can be configured according to whatever your preference is in your organization. To demonstrate, I'll begin by adding a new customer. So I'll just make something up. Notice the ease of use. By default, it's going to default in the person who's logged in as the salesperson. Of course, I can override that, but it's very simple to work with this system. So I'm just going to make up a business here and put in a name. I'm just going to try to put in some dummy information quickly. And then I've got some fields to track information about this prospective customer. So I want to know how big is this organization. You've got small customers and big ones. And then by default, notice I've got the follow-up date defaulting to a week from today. I could change this, but everything's set up to be streamlined. And then also we want to know what kinds of services and products this person's interested in. So I've got some checkboxes. And almost everything about this solution is easy to configure. So naturally, you would adjust those options to match up with the categories in your organization. And then I can make some notes down here. Okay, so far so good. Very simple. That's all I need to do to initially enter a contact, and that's going to immediately show up on the dashboard. You can see it there. There's Big Al's Tires. I can see my initials here for the salesperson, WC, that's me. And then I've got a very prominent indicator for the next follow-up date, and they're in sequence based upon the dates. Now I can go back in and do some activities with my new prospective customer. So status is a big one. So we want to be able to keep detailed notes on all these activities so that we know not only where we are right now, but what is the track record of what's going on. When was the last thing that took place? Who did that activity? And what is the history? So I'll say this person is ready for the next step. And I can click on this update status. And I want you to see how the interface changes. So I'm going to change this to qualified, and notice the immediate update. We have some color coding based on the status, and I can see that in the header bar as well. Also, along the way, I have history tracking. Notice that I have tracking, which is indicating who did the activity, and then the note. This is what I just typed in. This person's ready for the next step. It says there was a status update, and we can keep this information as we're going along. Okay, you'll see this change because I changed the status. Now Big Al's Tires is under qualified, and I can go back in and do more activities. Notice I've got a couple activities already in here. Part of this system allows you to auto-generate activity. So you may have a standard process where you always want your sales team to do certain things every time you've got a prospective customer. So you have some predefined structure in terms of what happens. So if I go in here, we can take a look at one of those. So as an example, we always want to make sure we do an intro call with our customer. So this was auto-generated automatically just from this new customer getting entered into the system. It automatically set the assignment. Notice I can do tracking for sign by, and this sales activity is a task. Basically, this is a task list, and each of these tasks have a status. So I can update this to complete. I can enter my notes. Hopefully they'll be more detailed than this, but you get the idea. I can even attach a file to my task if I want to. And you can see it updates on my dashboard right here. And all of this is getting tracked in the history. Additional to this, I can drag and drop files. So if I want to put in a proposal or information that was sent, I can do that as well. Now, a very common activity is going to be the back and forth email exchanges. So a liability in these situations is when you have multiple people talking with your prospect, and that's really a key purpose of a CRM, is to centralize those activities. While this system isn't directly integrated with email, it does provide a very easy way to ensure that you don't lose that information. So if I'm doing a follow-up with this customer, I'm sending an email, I'm going to pick the category email, follow up on pricing. I'm going to set this immediately to complete. And then what I can do is type up my email and then just paste it in here. So on. I can just paste from Outlook directly in here, and that way I am sharing with my team exactly what I sent over to them. So when another salesperson needs to follow up later, I've got that all captured in one centralized location. And we've got lots of places to keep up with information. So I have sales notes. If I just want to make just general internal facing notes, I can do that in my sales notes field here. And then we've got a sales manager notes. Now, one thing about these forms that is really handy is you can control the level of access to different parts of the form. This is something SharePoint doesn't have out of the box. This is field level permissions. So in the sales manager notes, we can make it so that only your sales managers have the ability to write notes. This might be a directive to the salespeople on their next step or something they should do. So what we can have is this field where the sales manager can type into this, and the salesperson just sees it in a read-only capacity. All right, there's my sales manager note. All right, so from one centralized dashboard, I get a lot of very important information. I've got grouping based on the different stages in terms of where we are. And then the sales activities can actually be viewed directly from here as well. So I have an alternative way to do that without even having to go into the form. So if I go into the one that I'm working on, I can actually click and expand out. If I say click for details, it actually accordions out and I can see all those sales activities directly from the main dashboard. So we want ease of use for the salespeople, but also by the sales team. If I'm a manager, I want to be able to efficiently look over everything. I don't need to see everything in granular detail. I want to look for things that are overdue. I want to make sure activities are done, and I want to be able to do that from a summary view. Now we've got lots of different views that we can look at. So at the very end of the process, naturally you're going to onboard that customer and they become an official customer. So we're going to have a view for that, of course. So we have a filter view for this business. They've signed on, we're doing work for them, so they're in our customers list. And I've got links from all my tiles to go here. Maybe I just want to see that summary view of all the sales activity. This is a summary view that shows that to me. There's one thing in particular that really stands out, and that's the till due indicator. And that's simply showing the number of days until those particular activities are due. Why is that important? Well, naturally, we want to make sure nothing's falling through the cracks. We want to make sure that we don't let that lead go cold. We want to make sure we're keeping the momentum and doing those follow-ups. And especially as a sales manager, this is going to help me out. I don't have to climb down into each of those individual customer records. I can look in the summary view and I can see quite easily any outstanding tasks that need to be tended to. I can make a phone call to that sales rep or email and say, hey, what the heck? It looks like you haven't followed up with Big Corp. We really need to jump on it. Notice that once the status of the task is set to complete, that till due doesn't show anything, and that's by design. We wouldn't want to say that it's past due if it's complete, so it factors that into it in that column. And then we've got the different categories of sales calls as well. So this summary view of the sales activity is going to be very useful to me as someone who's managing over a sales team. So that's the all sales activity. Now I can get even more specific. If I go to overdue sales activity, I could just click on that and just focus right in on that. Basically, just show me any tasks that are overdue. I just want to see those. So that's even more efficient. Okay, and then from a salesperson perspective, especially when you're collaborating with sales team, that could be a bit overwhelming. Maybe I don't really want to see everything. I just want to see the things that I'm working on. And so we've got custom views for that as well. If I click on my sales activity, those are just going to show me my own customers. So these are the ones, my own tasks and my own customers. So these are my own activities. This helps me make sure that I'm working on my own stuff, but these are the things that just pertain to Will Cooper. So I don't have to see everything mixed in with mine. I can focus in on only my own stuff. Same thing with the customers. I can just go to my own customer list. That way I can kind of go down. This almost becomes like a task list for me. I can climb down through my customers. I can check my activities, make sure I'm up to date, and see where I am. And this is going to be my day-to-day dashboard to make sure I'm staying on top of all those follow-ups. So all those dashboards are going to be super handy to help you keep track of what's going on. So those are all linked from these quick links tiles from our SharePoint homepage. Now let's kind of climb back into the form interface a little bit, and I really want you to see how easily this can be customized. One thing I didn't mention yet, which is certainly a key part of this system, will be email notifications. So of course, when something becomes overdue or a follow-up is needed, you want to be able to easily define email rules. So if I go into the settings screen, I can simply click on alerts, and you'll see an example of one of those. This is for the follow-up date on the customer, and the rule is simple. When the next follow-up is today, I want an email to go out. I want it to go to the person who's in the salesperson primary field, and I simply want to tell that salesperson, hey, it's time to follow up, and then it inserts the name of the customer and then inserts their contact information directly in the email. That way we don't have anything slipping through the cracks. So not only do they have their dashboards, but also there are email reminders to tell them what to do. The Form Designer tool is where everything is customized. So I mentioned at the beginning of the call, no programming is needed in any of this. In other words, anyone who has a little bit of SharePoint knowledge can design the form and update the form to make it do everything that they want. This is a drag and drop style interface. So when I want to add fields to the form, I can simply drag them out onto the form like this, and then I can rearrange them. I can do things such as multi-column layouts to make things fit in a little bit better according to whatever my own preferences are. And then I can also do things like change the background on the form or the different sections. Maybe I want one section to be light blue instead of gray. Just help it stand out. And what you see is what you get. That's easy. You basically just click that color swatch and immediately you can update the interface however you want. So I can very quickly set up a form. Notice that there's a tabbed interface, and that's especially useful in this type of a system. There's a lot of information going on. What I don't want to do is shove everything into a long scrolling page. That's not going to be very pleasant to look at. Instead, we've got it broken down by different tabs. So I've got a contact info tab, I've got a tab for the sales activity, and so on. But if I want to add more tabs to this interface, it's easy. I can just click plus, rename my tab to whatever I want, and keep adding additional sections. So everything about this form is totally customizable. You can make it look exactly the way that you want. You can make it branded according to the way that your company wants things to look. It's entirely up to you. And that's all done through the Form Designer interface. Really easy to work with. I want to make sure I don't save that. Okay. Another thing that I mentioned is standardizing sales activities. So I want to prompt my salespeople to always do certain tasks. And I don't want to have to manually add those tasks every time they have a new prospective customer. And that's where those automatically generated sales activities is really handy. And I'll show you exactly how that was set up. It's really easy. In the actions, I can set this rule to do this for me automatically. So I have a special action type called generate associated items, and I have a couple of tasks that I'm auto generating. I could easily make more. I simply told it to do this whenever a new customer is added. I put a name in here, and then I go to the action tab, and that's where I predefine that task. I simply told it what values I want for all the fields in that task. So I put in the customer name, and then I hard-coded my activity. So I have one called intro call, and I set the due date to be whatever today's date is plus 7. You could set that to whatever you want. And then the assigned to, assigned by, I'm just using the value from the customer record for the salesperson. Naturally, all of those can be overridden. So all I have to do is fill out these fields. So if I want to do more of these, I could simply replicate this and add whatever predefined tasks I want as part of the sales activity. So that's all something I can set up. I don't have to do any coding or anything like that. Very easy to work with. There's lots of different functionality baked in here. There are print templates. You can do a handwritten signature field directly in the form if you need that for any reason. Whatever you want. Automated actions, email notifications, import, export to databases. That could be handy in a CRM system. So this is very extensible. You can extend it and expand it according to whatever you want. I want to mention before I forget how you can access this after this call later today. As part of our system, we have a special tool called the Solution Catalog, and it allows you to download predefined solution templates. And the one I'm showing right now is one of those. So when you get into the software and click on Solution Catalog, you need to click on the Webinars tab. And in fact, you'll see downloadable solutions for other presentations that we've done in the past. We do these presentations every month. So right now you see it saying shift scheduling. Later today, sure enough, you're going to see it say CRM solution, and you can just click on the tile, and it's very easy. Just create a blank SharePoint site. You can click on install, and it will be set up in your SharePoint site in minutes. Really easy to do. So that's where you can access those solutions that's in the solution catalog. All right, let me bounce back up to the interface. And I just wanted to check on the questions and try to respond to you guys. Okay, some questions about costs. We're going to get to that in a moment. I'll talk to you about the Infowise Solutions software. Great question. Thank you, James. There was a question about why copy the text of the email instead of attaching the email to the record. You can do that, Brandon. That's up to you. Really it's just about clicks. We want people to be able to see things easily, but you can certainly do either of those options. So that's a good question. There's a question about support ticketing system. 100%. And actually with CRM systems, that's another component that's typical. We do have other solution templates you can download for help desk ticket. So when you go to our solution catalog, please look for the help desk ticket system. And that is an additional free solution template you can download that will work hand in hand with our CRM system. There's a question about iPhone and iPad, which is basically about mobile devices. As is the case with SharePoint in general, you 100% can use this on mobile devices. This form that I showed will automatically adapt and show your columns in a single column layout. So all of our solutions will work on cell phones. It works great. So your salespeople absolutely can open this CRM site and SharePoint on their mobile device in the browser and do everything that I'm doing on the desktop view. It's going to look a little bit different, but it does use responsive design and it is fully compatible. iPhone, Android, you name it, no problem at all. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the licensing since I had a question on that. So this is part of the Ultimate Forms software. This is an add-in for SharePoint, and the pricing is based on the number of users using the software in your environment. So what you need to think about is how many people in your sales team will interact with the system, and then it's a subscription charge based on the number of users. So depending on the volume, it's a monthly charge. It'll give you cost per month, and you can just take a look at that at the pricing link on the infowisesolutions.com site. So that should help you understand how that works. It is a subscription model, and you basically pay to have the subscription in order to use these tools. What's really great about this is the fact that it doesn't just add a CRM capability for SharePoint, it adds the ability to do all kinds of different things. So if you look through our templates, you're going to see that there are, in fact, hundreds of different options available. So this is kind of the tip of the iceberg, if you will. If you go in our solution catalog, you can see that we have, according to this, 362 different solutions. There are 55 different webinar solutions. So the price is the same. So in other words, whether you did 2 forms or you do 200 forms, it doesn't change the pricing at all. The only thing that is used to determine pricing is the number of users in your SharePoint environment that access the forms. So if some of your users are not going to be using the forms at all, they don't need licenses for that. So hopefully that helps you understand the pricing. Good question. All right, let's see. We got a couple more questions. In terms of security and user roles, I had mentioned that you can do field level security in the form, so you can use SharePoint security groups to define who has access. In terms of security, generally this is going to be using SharePoint security. So whatever you can do in regard to SharePoint security, this solution will use that. So in general, I know that you may want to control who has access to what information. So if you want to apply item level security, that's certainly an option. But generally that'll be handled through SharePoint configuration. Okay, there's another question about pricing. The best thing to do would be to reach out to us to schedule a demo or contact our sales team. It's a little bit outside the scope of our presentation for the webinar, but we're certainly interested in speaking with you. So if you want to get a quote, you can see that on the pricing page. Just go ahead and send your contact information. We can help you with those questions to know exactly what the cost would be. If you would like to schedule a demo meeting with us, we're very happy to talk to you one-on-one so we can talk about your specific situation. In order to sign up for a demo, if you scroll to the bottom of the homepage, you'll see a button where you can click book a demo. We'll set up a web meeting if you'd like to do that. Installing the trial software is free. It is our complete software. It's not limited in any way, other than it will time out after 30 days. Of course, it's not going to be free forever, but we want people to be able to try everything about our tools so they're able to make a good decision. You would need to get help with your SharePoint admin to get that installed, but this can be done in a few minutes. You can install the software and then download the CRM solution template. There's a question about security groups again. This is just going to be using SharePoint and Microsoft 365 security. So whether you're using SharePoint security or like you said, AD groups, I guess Microsoft calls it Entra now, any of that's going to work. So it's just using the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. You're not going to have any issues or problems. No matter how you do that, it's going to be fully compatible with the solution. All right, good questions. Now, part of the formatting in this is actually related to the tool that I mentioned at the beginning, which is SharePoint Dashboards. And this site is naturally at SharePointDashboards.com. This is a companion tool. You could use this in addition to Infowise Ultimate Forms if you're interested. There are lots of different templates on this site. In fact, there's 237 as of this presentation. And this is a low cost option which allows you to visualize data inside of SharePoint. So if you're interested in doing things like adding buttons or adding charting or different options inside of SharePoint, this is an additional option available to you. So I hope you'll check that out. You can sign up for this tool for free. It'll give you access to 21 free templates. All that you need to do for the free sign up is just provide your name and email address. That's it. And then you'll be able to log into this tool, and that'll allow you to do some of the kinds of templates that you see in this dashboard. If you wonder why some of these dashboards look a little bit different, that's the reason why. It's utilizing some of the templates from there. So that's a little bit of info about SharePoint dashboards. Really good questions. All right. So if you guys have any other questions, go ahead and post them in there. That is the end of my main presentation. I'm going to keep the meeting going, but what I am going to do is go ahead and stop the recording for YouTube, but I will stay here to answer questions in chat.